the historical controversies. The history of our nation has unfolded some of the most controversial events of all times in just the past 65 years or so. What I mean by this is that some events that are considered historical, certain other events are considered controversial. Therefore, I conclude that they are historiversial. There are three events in particular that seem to have changed or could have changed our history forever. These are the 9/11 terrorist attack, the lunar landing, and the Roswell UFO incident. We all know that the Twin Towers came crashing down on 9/11/2001, that Apollo 11 launched from Kennedy Space Center on 7/16/69, and that the military quarantined Area 51 in Roswell, New Mexico 7/3/1947. But that's where most of the facts actually stop. We're all sure that the Twin Towers fell on September 11th, 2001, but do we really know what the true story was behind the plot to kill thousands of Americans? We have heard from our government that it was Al-Qaeda, a terrorist group from the Middle East. But there are some people that believe that the buildings fell due to a controlled demolition rather than a structural fire. There was even a documentary on a local cable channel where the narrator explained that the steel beams in the basement of the Twin Towers had been tampered with. He basically said that the only way for the buildings to fall down like the way it did was due to beams in the basements being pre-cut before impact and not the actual impact of the airplanes alone. But these are the same groups that believe our government was behind this tragic event and use it as an excuse to start a war in Afghanistan. Our then President George W. Bush was quoted as saying these theories were outrageous, and he said they only served to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty. But the author of the website called Skeptic.com talks about conspiracies as they relate to U.S. history. He states in one of his articles that where some historical events are probably a conspiracy, such as Abraham Lincoln's assassination, he doesn't think 9/11 was a conspiracy. The National Institute of Standards and Technology have also investigated these claims, and they've concluded that no foul play was evident. But this is just one conspiracy topic of many. Another topic that revolved around U.S. history that had the word conspiracy attached to it was the lunar landing. This is a picture of the lunar landing. Real or fake? Actually, this one's fake. So, the landing on the moon happened on July 20th, 1969. That is, of course, unless you are one of the ones who believe that it was all a hoax. These are the theories that argue that NASA did what it had to do to fool people, like making fake studios set backdrops and tampering with or destroying evidence, such as photos and telemetry tapes. There were numerous people with different reasons as to why and how it's possible for us to go to the moon. One of the most popular topics was that the Americans had to beat Russia to the moon, even if it meant we had to fake it. Yuri Mukin was a Russian politician, publicist, and writer of the book The Moon Affair of the USA. He denied all evidence of the landing on the moon, and he accused the U.S. government of plundering the money paid by the American taxpayers for the moon program. And a British publisher named Marcus Allen said that getting to the moon itself wasn't that much of a problem, but the problem was getting people there because the radiation levels in the space would be deadly. But according to James Longuski, professor of aeronautics and astronautics of engineering at Purdue University, he states that the conspiracy theory about the moon is impossible because of its size and complexity. He explained that more than 400,000 people worked on the Apollo project for nearly 10 years. He claimed that it would have been a lot easier to actually walk on the moon and create a hoax this elaborate. While these two conspiracy theories have made history and have highly been debated topics, one of the most intriguing conspiracies of all time that may have been deprived of its history was without a doubt the UFO incident in Roswell, New Mexico in July of 1947. Ever since mankind has existed, there's always been an unanswered question that we have all pondered at one time or another. Are we alone? It just so happened one night in Roswell, Mexico in 1947, there was an alien landing that was going to change the history in our country and in the world forever. After all, doesn't it seem hard to believe that as big as this universe is, how long it's been in existence, that we're the only existing life form in the world? There were accounts of people that witnessed strange sightings and noises on that fateful night in Roswell. One man known as W. Brazil, who was a rancher who lived about 30 miles south of Corona, told the story of finding what seemed to be parts of a flying disc. He told the sheriff in the town about his findings, which were then relayed to the military. This was the picture the morning after, I think, where they found the UFO. And the military claimed it was merely a weather balloon and nothing more. But Brazil said that he had previously found 2 weather observations balloons on the ranch, and that this object did not in any way resemble the balloons he had found. There was also a book written called Witness to Roswell. It tells of a lady scientist who examined one of the alien creatures that died in the crash. The government also tried to say that the aliens that people thought they saw were just test dummies that were made by the military, and the saucers were just weather balloons. Maybe the government was telling the truth, or maybe they were just trying to save us from something extraterrestrial, and they didn't want to send their country into mass pandemonium. If the latter of the two was the case, well, they may have deprived us of one of the biggest pieces of history we have ever encountered. But as time goes by, history will always be made. There will always be questions as to how and where history is made. We will always have questions, but we won't always have all the answers. That is why conspiracy theories exist, and they always will exist. Some theories claim the history that has been made, when in fact it really hasn't. But on the other hand, there are things that are said to be untruths, or not scientifically possible, that maybe they are possible, and just maybe one day we will be smart enough to build our own flying saucers. Besides, just think of all the gas money we could save.